The First Amendment is supposed to be one of the greatest things about this country. It gives us the right to speak our minds, to protest, to challenge power. It's one of the main things that separates democracy from dictatorship. But I want to talk about when that freedom crosses the line. Ask a real question. Should the First Amendment protect hate speech? For example, I'm going to be talking about hate groups such as the KKK, neo-Nazis, other supremacist groups who use the whole free speech clause as a way to spread hatred, fear, and violence, and they've been doing it for decades. They love to hide behind the Constitution when they're the ones tearing apart the people that it's supposed to protect. Now, legally, the Supreme Court has said that even hate speech is protected unless it is directly causing violence or making a real threat. One famous case, the Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1969, actually involved the KKK rally. The court ended up ruling that the government couldn't. Okay. Now, legally, the Supreme Court has said that even hate speech is protected unless it directly causes violence or makes a true threat. One famous case would be the Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1969, which actually involved a KKK rally. The court actually ruled that the government couldn't actually punish them because their speech, their gathering didn't directly lead to imminent lawless action, basically saying that unless someone immediately picks up a weapon right after, it didn't really lead to violence in that moment. And that's a huge problem because hate speech doesn't always show up as someone yelling, go attack them in the moment. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it spreads online. It gets normalized. It festers until someone takes that message and then turns it into action. And we've seen this countless times. We've seen it recently, like Charlottesville in 2017, when a white supremacist drove through a crowd of peaceful protesters for countless hate crimes that start with words, speeches, posts, propaganda, all protected under free speech. For communities like mine, hate speech isn't just offensive, it's a threat. It's a reminder that there are people out here who see our existence as a problem to solve. And that kind of speech plants fear. It silences people without needing a law to do it. And that's where the First Amendment fails us, because protecting speech that dehumanizes others is not freedom. It's harm disguised as liberty. And when the same law that allows someone like Dr. King talk about peace and bringing people together, tearing down barriers, also allows the KKK to organize marches calling for violence against individuals that they don't agree with, something is critically off. And other democracies has figured this out. Germany and Canada have started to ban hate speech outright because they understand what happens when hate gets protected as a right. They've lived through it. They've seen what happens. They don't see restricting hate speech as censorship. They see it as protection of human dignity. So when we talk about free speech, I think we got to ask, free for who? Because when one group's freedom means another group's trauma, that's not freedom at all in any way, shape, or form. The First Amendment should be there to empower voices, not be there to excuse violence and hateful rhetoric. At some point, we have to stop confusing freedom of speech with freedom of accountability, because hate speech doesn't make us more free. It just makes us more divided. It simply gives power to hate. It takes away the safety from people who've already had to fight for it for generations. So no, I don't think hate speech should be protected in any way, shape, or form, especially not in a country that claims liberty and justice for all. That just simply cannot be.